When you hear the word Viking, what is the first image that flares in your mind? Is it a wild-eyed berserker screaming through the fog, a great gleaming battle axe raised high? Is it the smoke and terror of Lindisfarne, the very moment an age of brutal raiding began? For centuries, the popular narrative, the only narrative, has been forged in blood and fire. The Viking Age, we are told, was a dark stain of destruction, defined entirely by the plunder of monasteries and the subjugation of terrified monks. The Viking, a barbarian, an engine of pure violence. This image, my friends, is seductive, but it is woefully incomplete. The battle axe was only one tool in the Viking arsenal. To truly understand the men and women who burst out of the Norse homelands, we must look beyond the battle axe. We must examine the cards they truly played. The card of the explorer, the card of the trader, the card of the settler, and the card of the artist. The Vikings were not merely destroyers, they were the greatest globalizers of their era, linking the silver markets of Baghdad with the frozen forests of the Baltic and stretching a hand across the Atlantic centuries before Columbus. Their raids were just the starting pistol for a phenomenon that birthed nations, mapped continents, and fundamentally reshaped the course of world history.
The shift from sporadic raids to full-scale global expansion required a technological marvel, and for the Vikings, that was the Longship. This vessel, not the axe, was their true weapon of conquest. Designed with a remarkably shallow draft, the Longship was equally effective at landing silently on beaches during coastal raids and navigating shallow inland rivers, allowing them to penetrate deep into the heart of Europe, from Francia to the Russian steppes. Yet their shipbuilding genius also allowed for extraordinary stability, enabling them to cross the stormy, vast North Atlantic to reach distant islands. The Oseberg and Gokstad ship finds demonstrate this naval engineering prowess, confirming that the Longship was a sophisticated machine built for dual purposes, warfare and commerce. But this aggressive expansion was rooted in profound internal pressures. Viking society was a strict hierarchy of jarls, carls, and thralls, driven by an unyielding sense of honor and the necessity of land. As the population grew in the Norse homelands, coupled with limited arable land along the rocky coasts, internal power struggles intensified. The consolidation of kingdoms by powerful figures like Harald Fairhair often forced rival jarls and independent farmers to become vikingar, those who go out on an expedition, seeking new territory and wealth. The raids themselves were rarely random acts of savagery. They were calculated, high-risk, high-reward expeditions, essentially functioning as a form of venture capital. Monasteries, rich in portable silver, illuminated manuscripts, and vestments, represented poorly defended banks, providing the financial fuel needed to sustain the movement and fund further colonization. This combination of naval technology, social pressure, and clear economic logic created the unstoppable engine of the Viking Age.
The raids were merely the cover charge for entry into a far more ambitious venture, global trade. The Vikings essentially carved out the first coherent Northern European economic network. This expansion followed two distinct paths, the Eastern Road and the Western Road. The Eastern Road was the domain of the Varangians, known to the Slavs as the Rus, meaning rowers. Their primary drive was commerce. These Norse entrepreneurs used the great Russian river systems, the Volga and the Dnieper, as their superhighways, linking the Baltic Sea down to the Black and Caspian Seas.
The flow of goods was immense: furs, amber, honey, and most tragically, slaves, thralls, who were highly sought after in the wealthy Islamic and Byzantine markets. This route funneled massive wealth back to Scandinavia, proven by the staggering hordes of Islamic silver coins, dirhams, found throughout the north, confirming extensive trade with the caliphates of Baghdad and Samarkand. Their greatest destination was Miklagard, or Constantinople, the Byzantine capital, where the majesty of the city often overwhelmed them. Many Vikings chose to stay, joining the prestigious Varangian Guard, serving as the emperor's elite axe-wielding mercenary unit. While the east offered silver, the western road offered something different: land and liberty. The initial raids on Britain and Francia quickly evolved into the establishment of permanent commercial centers, such as Dublin and York, which became vital hubs for trade in wine, salt, glass, and English wool. More profoundly, the western journey was of pure exploration. Driven by the search for habitable land, settlers, often those fleeing the consolidation of power in Norway, pushed relentlessly into the unknown. They established the foundational legal society of Iceland, pioneering the Althing, one of the world's oldest surviving parliaments. This push continued with Eric the Red to the icy fjords of Greenland, where settlements were fiercely maintained to control valuable walrus ivory. Finally, the ultimate discovery came with Leif Erikson's monumental journey to Vinland, North America, centuries before Columbus. Though the settlement at Lonsal Meadows proved short-lived due to conflicts with the indigenous inhabitants, Skraelings, it definitively established the Vikings as the greatest navigators and explorers of the entire medieval period.
The final chapter of the Viking Age is defined by integration and cultural creation. In England, the constant military pressure from Norse forces ultimately led to the establishment of the Danelaw, a vast territory governed by Viking law and custom. While initially a land of division, the Danelaw eventually led to significant assimilation, contributing hundreds of essential words to the English language, like sky, law, take, and leaving an indelible mark on its legal and administrative systems. Similarly, in the East, the Scandinavian chiefs, most famously Rurik, founded the dynasty that would establish Novgorod and then Kiev as major trading principalities, becoming the nucleus of the largest state in medieval Europe, the Kievan Rus. This physical settlement brought about an inevitable, complex religious transition. Viking life and conquest were deeply rooted in the Norse pantheon, guided by the honor code of Odin, the strength of Thor, and the passion of Freya. However, engaging with Christian kingdoms necessitated a slow, often pragmatic conversion. Viking leaders realized that to integrate and maintain power, they had to adopt the dominant European religion. This led to a fascinating period of syncretism, visible in rune stones that often feature both the Christian cross and the hammer of Thor side by side. The ultimate cultural legacy, however, lies in their written word. Despite the barbarian label, Vikings were a highly literate culture, recording their history, laws, and mythic journeys in the magnificent Icelandic sagas, providing us today with a vivid, detailed, and deeply human portrait of their society, revealing a people obsessed with law and honor. The Viking Age eventually faded, primarily due to the consolidation of power both in their Scandinavian homelands and in the stronger, centralized kingdoms of Europe, like England and France. The symbolic end often rests with the Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066, where the last great Viking king, Harald Hardrada, fell. Ironically, the final blow to the Anglo-Saxon era came from William the Conqueror, a Duke of Normandy, a territory founded and named by Viking settlers. The Viking Age was ultimately concluded by its own descendants, integrated into the new European fabric. The lasting impact of the Vikings far outweighs the plunder of their initial raids. They were the economic connectors who established the first unified northeastern European trade system. They were founders, not just fighters, creating cities like Dublin and Kiev and nations like Iceland and Normandy. The true Viking legacy is one of the Longship, the silver coin, the legal code, and the parliament. These were the things that truly endured and profoundly shaped the modern world. The story of the Vikings is not a footnote of savagery. It is a foundational chapter in the history of exploration, trade, and the complex, messy birth of global commerce. So the next time you see the image of a screaming berserker, remember the full picture. Remember the longship that crossed oceans, the silver coin that linked east and west, and the laws that built nations. The true Viking Age was a saga of ingenuity, commerce, and profound cultural transformation. They did not just raid history, they made it. If you found value in exploring the history beyond the battle axe, please take a moment to hit that like button. Your support helps us fund the research for our next deep dive. What surprised you most about the Vikings' global empire? Did you know they reached North America? Let us know in the comments section below. We read every single one. And finally, don't let the next great untold story pass you by. Hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to join the Chronicles of Valor community. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next chapter of history.